Well, well, well. What do we have here? I'll tell you what we have. Today we have a fulfillment of a stereotype. I was scrolling through X, the everything app formerly known as Twitter today, and I came across a story that confirmed my biases, told me that my view of the world that I hold, my current view, the frame that exists within my own mind of how people act, their tendencies, was actually correct this whole time. At least according to this certain instance. Isn't that always fun when you see a fulfillment of a stereotype? For example, I'll be scrolling over Instagram, I'll be scrolling the racism app, as some people call it, and I'll be seeing a certain demographic of people in my reels walking at a Target with bags full of TVs, full of makeup, full of snacks, full of gizmos, and full of gadgets. And I go in the comment section, and all of the comments say, well, 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 the usual suspects. Why is that? It's a fulfillment of a stereotype. My name is Peter Wiggin, and today we will be going over another fulfillment of a stereotype that has been blowing up all over the internet. And this is a story of a man, an Israeli man in Las Vegas over the course of the past couple of weeks named Tom Alexandrovich. Now, I'm going to pull up an article from The Guardian right here to help explain exactly what this situation was. But the title of this article says, Israeli government official arrested in Nevada in internet crimes against children sting. Tom Alexandrovich was released and returned to Israel after being charged with luring of a child for a sex act. Wow. That's a pretty damning title if you were to ask me. But let's get into what this is actually saying. So it says, an Israeli government cybersecurity official was reportedly arrested recently by Las Vegas police and other authorities in Nevada who were conducting an undercover investigation aimed at online users seeking to sexually prey on children. That sounds like a good operation to me. As long as I'm not on the receiving end of it, of course. We want to keep the streets safe. Tom Alexandrovich, age 38, faces felony charges of luring a child with a computer for a sex act, alongside several other suspects who were apprehended during the 2-week sting operation. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said in a statement published this Friday. He has since been released from custody on a $10,000 bail after an initial court appearance records show and returned to Israel. Oh, wow. So let's take a look real quick at what the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said about the situation. They said 8 child sex predators arrested during undercover operation. So yeah, a sting operation, it's an undercover operation where it's not entrapment, but what the cops are going to try to do is catch the criminal in the act of committing the crime. And so it's kind of what Chris Hansen did. It's kind of what you see all of these derivatives all over YouTube where they lure a child predator into a Target and cover him with milk and various sorts of peanuts and cashews and punch him in the face and stuff like. It's the same thing, except these are actual feds. So it says a multi-agency operation targeting child sex predators led to the arrest of 8 individuals over the last 2 weeks. Great, keeping the streets safe. Talks about all the different departments affiliated on this case. And it lists the people that were arrested, one of them being our friend Tom Alexandrovich. I'm just going to call him Tom. I don't know how to pronounce his middle name. Those Israeli names, am I right? And then it talks about, it gives a warning to parents. We'd like to remind parents to discuss with their children the dangers of engaging with strangers online. That's been another issue that's popped up all over the internet recently with Roblox, another everything app. Anyway, let's go back to that initial article that we were reading together. At first reported by the news site Mediaite, a publicly posted screenshot of Alexandrovich's page on the LinkedIn professional networking platform described him as the executive director of the Israeli Cyber Directorate, an Israeli government agency under the purview of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office. Other information online attributes the same position to Alexandrovich. And so right here I have a screenshot. This is the Mediaite screenshot that the article was referencing. And it is indeed, if you take a look at this, Tom Alexandrovich. Luckily, it doesn't have his middle name. I don't need to try to pronounce it. With the classic LinkedIn background, a inspirational picture with the quote saying, grow your mind. What does that mean in this context? And as you can see under his bio, it says Executive Director at Israeli National Cyber Directorate. And we're being told by this Guardian article and other subsequent sources that this is directly affiliated with Benjamin Netanyahu in his prime minister role. So it says, In his About section, cybersecurity leader, executive, and architect of national security cyber defense programs, including designing and building Israel's Cyber Dome program, a national program based on big data and AI to defend civilian cyberspace. I specialize in building high-performing teams, developing national cyber strategies, and protecting critical infrastructure and domestic institutions from sophisticated APT threats. So it's kind of ironic. He's using this program, this AI program, based on big data to defend civilian cyberspace. What he's done is he's encroached on the American cyberspace, the cyberspace involved with children, and used it to entrap them and lure them into a compromising position. So since then, this article says as well, his LinkedIn profile has been deleted. So I'm glad we could get the screenshot. I'm glad we could show the receipts while we still had time. What are they trying to cover up by deleting his LinkedIn profile? I couldn't tell you. The Israeli news outlet Ynet reported on Wednesday that the U.S. had detained an employee of the Israeli National Cyber Directorate for interrogation while he was representing his country at a professional conference. That employee then returned to his hotel and flew back to Israel 2 days later. And this Ynet article that The Guardian is quoting says, the Israeli officials downplayed the incident, saying it carried no political implications and was resolved quickly. Interesting. No political implications, nothing to see here. It's just a pedophile that was being convicted of a felony that was able to cross national borders back to his home state and a place that is known to not extradite pedophiles. But we'll get back into that in a second. And so what's going on with this? What's happening? Why is this such a big deal? Why are people freaking out about this? What are the implications of this cover-up? There are so many questions, more questions than I have answers. I'll try to get into a couple explanations as to why the Twitter is on fire about this, but was he being helped by the U.S. State Department? According to that Ynet article that The Guardian was referencing, no, there was no involvement whatsoever. But if that's the case, why was he allowed to leave the country? If he was being convicted of a felony, why didn't they confiscate his passport or his visa, which are common occurrences under circumstances like this? And moreover, why didn't they impose travel restrictions at all? All of these different pieces seem to be coming together in a way that sounds like there is more something else going on. And so I have a tweet from the actual State Department Twitter page right here. You can take a look at it yourself. And it says, this is from the U.S. State Department Near Eastern Affairs page on X. The Department of State is aware that Tom Alexandrovich, an Israeli citizen, was arrested in Las Vegas and given a court date for charges related to soliciting sex electronically from a minor. He did not claim diplomatic immunity and was released by a state judge pending a court date. Any claims that the U.S. government intervened are false. So there we have it again. There we have it. The U.S. State Department wasn't involved at all in this, supposedly. And as we see, this top comment, which has ratioed this, has a 2-to-1 ratio against the U.S. State Department itself, says, why was this travel visa not immediately revoked? I had the same question. You'll suspend visas for maimed children seeking medical care. We talked about that yesterday on this page, actually. But not sex predators? Despicable. A couple months ago, there were also visas being revoked, visas being denied for people that protested against the state of Israel at a few college campuses across the states. And so we have a response to this, actually. A response from somebody that I respect a lot, whose opinions I value on this app. Somebody that... There are very few people nowadays that you can look for truth, that you can trust their opinion, whatever it may be, over political issues, over social issues, over economic issues. But Bret Weinstein has been eerily consistent throughout COVID, which is where I initially discovered him. He was one of the first people ragging against COVID as being made in a lab. He's an evolutionary biologist, and he saw right through the veil and was able to pretty much give the warning call about COVID, about the vaccine. And, back in those days, they called it the intellectual dark web, and it involved people like Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Eric and Bret Weinstein, and Sam Harris. And it seems like everybody, and I think Ben Shapiro as well was considered part of that little group. Since then, all of those individuals have, one by one, committed career suicide in the eyes of a lot of the dissident right. But Bret Weinstein, I'd still say I trust a lot of his opinions. Always be careful with, but that's just a personal recommendation that I would give. And he says, I don't even know where to begin with this story. Alexandrovich is an alleged sexual predator of children. The State Department seems unfazed by his initial treatment, or the fact that he has fled. The Israeli regime clearly doesn't care either, failing to arrest him. Netanyahu downplaying the entire matter, like you said. We're staring into the face of evil, the same depraved indifference that trained an animal virus to spread between people, then sought to inflict an experimental gene therapy on an unsuspecting public, is clearly evident here. It's the same callousness we see leveling Gaza and starving civilians. It's one demonic moral framework poking through in many places. There are two kinds of people in the world: those who are fine with violence against innocents, so long as the victims are someone else's children, and there are those who detest all violence visited upon innocents, no matter whose children they may be. So he's delineating the sides right here. Are you for the children or are you against the children? It's a question that these people in government, these people in politics, these people overseas in diplomatic positions need to answer. The former group has a stronghold on power at this moment. They are setting and resetting the terms. It's us and them. We should accept that much. We must choose between the two worlds, one an eternal, bloody battle between lineages, and the other is the West. The West needs to get up off its knees and fight. The alternative is hell on earth. Everyone's children are depending on us, even the ones whose parents stand resolutely on the other side. It's an interesting little perspective right there, and as we see, railing against the State Department, railing against the government, pointing to a larger issue at hand, which I think he's pretty correct about. And the top comment right here, at least the first comment that appears on my page, is by a fellow named Zalmi Fogelman. And he says, "You always scared me with your jab stuff. Now that I've seen this post, I'm much calmer, knowing I can trust you less, if at all. Phew." Sweating, happy emoji. And Brett responds saying, "Or you could try it the other way. I turned out to be right about the shots," which he's correct about. "I said it for dramatic effect," Zalmi says. "You could be right about the shot stuff. You're wrong about everything else in this post. At least we have one Weinstein. This guy thought he cooked, as some people say nowadays." And then you scroll, you hover over his profile and you look at his bio and it's like, oh, dad, husband, rabbi, yeah, entrepreneur. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm surely going to listen to the words of Zalmi Fogelman. After looking at all this, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but why are people freaking out about this? Why is this a stereotype? Why do people say that a lot of Israeli citizens and, oh, the Jews are pedophiles? Why do they say that? Is it because of rabbi scandals? Well, that might be part and parcel for what's going on. It might be the chocolate chips in this nice cookie recipe. There's some other stuff going on. And actually, there is precedent for people being sent or running back to Israel and being unable to be extradited by the United States government and escaping their convictions, whether it be pedophilia or other things going on. And I have an article from CBS News right here to prove that point. It says, "How Jewish American pedophiles hide from justice in Israel." This was written about 5 years ago. And it pretty much outlines, I'll just read a little bit about this, but it gives a biography about this dude named Karo, who's convicted by an Israeli court of child molestation. And it discusses saying JCW, which is a Jewish Community Watch, an American organization that tracks accused pedophiles, and has been trying for years to find this dude, Karo, and bring him to justice, says that Karo and other wanted men and women have been able to exploit a right known as law of return, whereby any Jewish person can move to Israel and automatically gain citizenship. Since the small organization started tracking accused pedophiles in 2014, 10 years ago, it says more than 60 have fled from the U.S. to Israel. 60 in a decade. Given its limited resources to identify these individuals, JCW says the actual number is likely much larger. That's all the people that we know about, right? It's the same thing that's going on in the Catholic Church right now around the world. It's the exact same thing that's happening in our communities, blah, blah, blah. And so this isn't a new thing. There's this law of return in which, Jewish people, they can go to Israel, they can go to the Jewish state, they can obtain citizenship, and they can escape extradition there. And I have another little, I just wanted to pull this up. This is from the Office of Justice Programs, the U.S. Department of Justice. It's an official government page talking about extradition from Israel and it's a very legal document. Here's the abstract saying, "The extradition process usually begins with a telegraph request from a foreign police force for the preliminary arrest of a fugitive person charged with or convicted of a felony," which in this case Tom was, as we discussed. "A person arrested must be brought before a magistrate's court within 48 hours. The formal request for extradition is submitted by the embassy of the requesting country to Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs." Now, this is the important part. If the Minister of Justice believes that a proper case exists, a district court hears the petition. And the issue is the Ministry of Justice oftentimes it will reject these claims, saying that these are improper cases. We're not going to see these cases. Thus, we're not going to move forward in attempting to extradite this individual back to the United States to bring them the charges that they deserve for the horrible and heinous acts that they've committed. And so, what do you think? It seems like we're digging ourselves into a ditch deeper and deeper. We're digging ourselves our own graves. It feels like we're on the brink of collapse in whatever form that takes. I like something that Jordan Peterson used to say back in 2016, 2017, 2018, and I'm sure he says it now, although, as we know, his views on world politics have kind of tainted his career and his viewpoints. He said that a nation falls apart, and I think he's quoting Alexander Solzhenitsyn when he says this, but a nation falls apart from the base when people stop telling the truth. That's one of his 12 rules for life, is to tell the truth in any circumstance. And when people start to lie, when people start to say that reality isn't what you think it is, and they start to make believe, they start to tolerate things that just aren't true, that are complete falsehoods, it taints the entire society and it begins to crumble from the bottom upwards. And I think that's what's going on right now. People are rejecting base reality. People aren't seeing this for what it is. We read the comment by Zalmi under Brett Weinstein's post saying, this is a complete falsehood. Yet he brings no evidence to back up the case that Brett Weinstein was wrong in any of the things that he said. There are a group of people that will defend the Israeli regime no matter what happens. And those people aren't just Israelis. There are many American citizens, whether it be dual citizens, people with dual loyalty to Israel, and I know according to the ADL that's an anti-Semitic blood libel trope, but I don't care. People we have a lot of evangelicals, dispensationalists within this country that will espouse such tradition. They think that whatever they do to protect Israel will bring blessings upon their head from God. But when it comes down to it, and I'll make this claim, and you can debate me in the comments, I'll be happy to debate you about this, but I would say that this administration has been the greatest bulwark and protector of pedophilia in this nation's history. And that's saying something. And now I've said this in my past video, I voted for Trump. I would say I'm on the right wing. There are a lot of things that he promised that I was for. I know that a lot of the groypers, a lot of people that follow Nick Fuentes don't like J.D. Vance for his affiliation with Peter Thiel. And I agree that we should trust him on everything. We should look at him with a wary eye, just as we should look at all politicians. But I kind of like the guy. After reading Hillbilly Elegy, after hearing about his past, I would say that I'm like, man, seeing Trump and J.D. Vance on that stage, on the inauguration stage, I was excited for what the next 4 years would bring, and now I'm just disappointed. While there have been some things moving forward policy in this country that I should thank Trump for, including shutting down border crossings to pretty much zero at this point, although mass deportations are struggling at the moment, I still am going to say that this administration has done more for the pedophiles in this country than any other administration. From the Epstein cover-up, from Pan Bondi and Kash Patel saying there are no Epstein files, from Kash Patel going on Joe Rogan and saying, if I had information, I would give it to you. Wouldn't I, Joe? Wouldn't I give that information to you? And then this, it's just time after time after time, evidence that, oh yes, this administration is being led by people that aren't of our country, that have foreign interests, that have loyalty not to this country but to some other country, whatever that may be. We need a semblance of justice in this country is what we need. And so there's been a lot of talk about the rise of anti-Semitism over the course of the past couple years, especially since October 7th, 2023, the attack of Hamas against the Israeli people, leading to over 1,000 people dead, which was a horrible tragedy, of course. And in the same vein, the people that are accusing the right of being anti-Semitic and fomenting blood libel and ancient anti-Semitic traditions and tropes, these same people are going to defend the Israeli government. They're going to defend Netanyahu for defending this Tom guy. And so if you don't want to see a rise in anti-Semitism, if you don't want to see people saying that we live in a Zionist-controlled government, if you don't want that to be the case, what we need to do is we need a hand down. We need to put a fist down and say, no, we don't have a two-tier justice system. We will extradite criminals that have escaped our country and escaped justice. And it is juicy, in the end, the moral of the story. There are people that are going to try to cover this up. I guarantee within a couple days, this will be out of the mainstream media altogether. Outright. You won't see this story anymore. Come back to this video if you need evidence of the fact that there are some tendrils of foreign influence in our government, in our politics, in our politicians, in our judges, in our state departments. And remember this, save this, share this with a friend. Show them that this is evidence of that fact. And show them that it's not anti-Semitic to say such. Show them that it's base reality. And just to end, it's juicy that this is coming out just 2 days after the ADL celebration of Leo Frank and his legacy. If you don't know what that is, look it up. I'm not going to go into it in today's video. I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment. It helps boost this in the algorithm. The more views on this I get, the more motivation I have to delve deeper into these topics, to spend more time making videos, to edit better. And so share this with a friend. Share this with a person that doesn't believe that there's foreign influence in our country. Red pill someone with this video. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and if you just pay attention for a second, you'll see it. Anyway, this has been Peter Wiggin. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.